These past couple of weeks in the NBA couldn't have been crazier. Lots of changes, culture shifts, superstar injuries, and unforgivable consequences unfolding in real time. The very best players Jokic, Giannis, and SGA in the mix for a title, but given all the recent news, everybody has had enough of today's disgrace. The morons running these teams needs to be called out for their incompetency, decisions that will haunt millions of fans for the rest of their lives, getting cheated on, their hopes crushed forever. Every couple of days, more pain gets repeated, disaster class moves to no end, nobody can defend, owners who fumble, front offices crumble, players get paid only to stumble. From Philly's big choke to Washington's fat joke, the Suns try to shine, but Bradley Beal committing basketball crimes. These franchises must pay for their mistakes, and it's already been happening faster than Jalen Suggs losing his hair. Horrible ownership, clueless front offices, washed up stars, young players with no development. These teams have been nothing but losing cultures and have absolutely no business being in the National Basketball Association any longer. Any of these teams will realistically relocate before the end of this decade. Starting with the awful, disgusting, disgrace of the biggest absolute travesty in NBA history, the despicable, horrendous Nico Harrison. The most hated face in the association, destroyed the franchise to shambles overnight. It only took a month for everyone to get injured. Absolute karma at its finest. New ownership, shame on you. Nico Harrison, you should never get a GM job after this season again. The entire city of Dallas needs to get a restraining order against his crimes. The biggest crime all decade, aside from the Luka stuff. Anthony Davis, of course, gets hurt his very first game. Lakers were gonna sit him out till after the All-Star break, but Dallas stupidly rushed him back, trying to win the angry fans over, only creating more disaster. Kyrie recently tore his ACL, played heavy minutes, trying to stay relevant and likely out rest of 2025. Since Luka's injury, Irving's minutes increased, but after the trade, Kyrie playing time went up to 39 minutes a game. Given his age, injury history, and small frame, literally ran to the ground, might never be the same again, giving away the much improved, promising Quentin Grimes for an injury-washed Caleb Martin. Dwight Powell outlasting Doncic in a Mavs uniform. Everything about 2025 Dallas Mavericks, an epic tragic catastrophe. There's no other choice but to sell the team. Move to Vegas, this collapse of a brutality and organizational downfall, making its case for worst failure of this decade. Up there with FTX and Terra Luna crypto scams. When greed, power, and money comes to play, raising ticket prices for this baloney, the new leadership of this organization just as bad as some of the COVID lockdown mandates. That's how helpless thousands of Mavs fans feeling today. A pain that won't go away for a long time. Harrison's incompetency, trading away Porzingis for literally nothing but a 99-cent store version of him and Davis Bertans, a contract dump. Now he has a ring on a team that beat his former Mavs. Could have given Jalen Brunson money faster, instead let him walk for nothing. Now the franchise superstar saving the Knicks. The team even had the audacity covering Luka's face in their introduction videos. Gave him zero respect when he's the real reason why the Mavs got to the finals in the first place. Played hobble all playoffs. As good as Kyrie is, no way was he capable of carrying the franchise as the number one option to the championship series. Replace Luka with even a Jimmy Butler or Jason Tatum, but I'm not sure they would even have beaten the Clippers in the first round last postseason. No other way to explain, but Nico, good buddies with Rob Pelinka, when talking about Kyrie after his injury, said his work ethic cut from the same cloth of greats, seeing the same passion in Kobe. Kobe's absolutely great in all aspects of the game, but their franchise legends Dirk Nowitzki literally having a statue outside the arena. Only fake sources would use Kobe's name as Nico's example, but overlooking what Dirk has accomplished has the fanbase disgusted. The whole front office most out of touch with their fans. If the conspiracies about them moving to Vegas doesn't turn out to be true, they're doing everything to screw up the city of Dallas. Luka, literally a top 2 player in the game last season, averaged 34, 9 and 9, wasn't close to winning MVP when deserving. It'd be his own people stabbing him in the back. All his lack of conditioning and BS, look how well he's been balling for the Lakers, worrying about Luka's health only to trade him away for someone who's nicknamed Data Davis. You can't make this shit up. Now more than half the team's injured, assistant coaches committing crimes day after the trade. Let's pray for Darryl Armstrong. Nico doing his best to have all Dallas fans become Laker fans. Klay Thompson's the biggest loser for his decision joining this team. The Mavs literally had title aspirations, hanging on to play-in territory before Luka's supposed to return. An absolute new Harvard Business Review case study for years to conduct, demonstrating what not to do in the world of management. More than half of NBA franchises never even enjoyed the privilege of having somebody as great as Luka Doncic on their roster. From the Luka trade, arguably the worst 30 days a professional sport has ever dealt with, which could have been avoided. Why would any star want to play for such an untrusted, shady franchise when they treat their best players this poorly? As for the fans getting kicked out for showing appropriate emotion with a legit chance of a title to this crap, the biggest gut punch felt imaginable in sports. Things could not have gotten any worse for Mavs fans. For everyone watching this video, the biggest life lesson you'll ever learn: never make the same egregious mistakes Nico Harrison did. The New Orleans Pelicans. Nobody wants to play there. It's simply not a basketball town, all football. It's almost been 6 years since the disappointing Zion Williamson drafted #1 overall, and yet 0 playoff appearance. It's over. Give it up already. When will all the off-court nonsense from getting out of shape end? Same old shit every season. Now many players drafted 3-4 years after Zion already play more NBA games than him. The writing already on the wall when Nola landed #1 pick, all their assets, trading for Anthony Davis gone. Williamson himself will never lead this franchise to any type of relevancy, an undeserving max contract, continuing missing most of his games, from having the chance to trade for Kevin Durant, electing to not give up poor man's KD, Brandon Ingram, traded for Bruce Brown and an old Kelly Olynyk. How stupid can this dumb franchise get? From Dyson Daniels, Josh Hart, and AD, all happy they out of NOLA, with a cursed franchise, poor ownership, management, and awful medical staff, everybody getting hurt to start the season, no team culture, from landing DeJounte Murray, having CJ McCollum. Many believe this team had contending aspirations, only for the 4 to play 0 games together. It's only a matter of time before Zion's gone, leading to another endless rebuild from the CP3, David West, Anthony Davis, and Boogie Cousins of the world. Franchise incapable of retaining all the good players long term. If this team manages to land the #1 pick, you bet Cooper Flagg will elect to stay another year at Duke. Founded in 2002, only got to the second round twice. Unlike the Timberwolves, Nets, and Grizzlies of the world, those below-average franchises have had iconic eras of basketball like the Jason Kidd Finals teams, the Grit and Grind era, and the Garnett times of the 2000s, but the Pels been around for long enough, never had a truly iconic era, being good for more than 2 seasons. The Philadelphia 76ers, process over, everything a failure, Embiid injury prone, washed center, the most fraudulent MVP all time, and Podcast P overpaid, useless in 2025 from the tanking Hinkie era, purposely cheating their way to multiple #1 picks, none of them pan out, from the awful Jahlil Okafor and Markelle Fultz of the world, deciding to build the team around the banged up Embiid, who gave everyone signs from day one he wasn't gonna last long in the league after missing his first 2 seasons with injury, and yet they still extended him, continued building around Joel, failing to get past the second round all these years. An incompetent front office horribly mismanaged their assets, failed to develop young talent they acquired, built no culture, coddled their players into softness, made every wrong decision imaginable. Nobody had any idea how to build an identity, from star hunting to not retaining the Jimmy Butlers and James Hardens of the world, both of whom managed to be better than Embiid in 2025. Nobody telling Joel the reality to his face when all his flop antics continues destroying his body, leading to non-stop injuries, sacrificing his health, playing in the Olympics, hopping on Team USA's bandwagon, to being unprepared, out of shape for the season, and a bad leader. publicly called out by his teammate for being late to practice. Everything seemed like karma. Being hurt every playoffs one way or another, except for getting swept 2020 bubble, trading hometown kid Mikal Bridges for the younger Zaire Useless Smith, inexcusable, deciding to keep the lazy talented Ben Simmons and having Jimmy Butler walk in free agency. Look at what Butler's accomplished without a true second star in Miami and how broken Simmons became. Joel and Ben not holding each other accountable, and B blaming Simmons for quitting against Atlanta when Joel himself played terrible. 8 turnovers game 7, never takes accountability. Even with Simmons' failures, teams still traded him for the better Harden, who won a couple games against Boston for Joel to stink it up, even giving fake star Tobias Harris a max contract, putting up 0 points in playoff games. Butler later destroying the Sixers, making the team eat their worst. From firing Hinkie, destroying every definition of the process with the disastrous Brian Colangelo, the burner accounts, Elton Brand, and the infamous feud between Harden and Daryl Morey. We can pinpoint the biggest crucial moments that set this franchise back many years, whether it's Kawhi's Game 7 buzzer beater or Ben Simmons passing up the open layup. From the start of the Andrew Bynum era to Embiid breaking down at age 31, the next couple years will be absolutely brutal for Philadelphia. Realistically, no winning plans for the future, arguably the most brutal season the fans can remember, given everything that was supposed to go well. The Washington Wizards, a team that never goes well, absolutely mid, no real fans, can have the worst record each of the next 10 years and nobody would give a damn. The place where former useful players get sent to the league shadow realm. Anybody even curious to see how Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Chris Middleton's doing? Names you haven't thought of since they got traded. By far the worst franchise after winning their 1978 championship, 0 50-win seasons since the 70s, the worst 46-year stretch imaginable for any pro sports franchise, having no beloved star since Wes Unseld. Even for the last 30 years, making the playoffs sometimes, always short-lived, leading to endless rebuilds. Washington, just one of these teams. If you were to name all 30 current NBA franchises without looking it up, the Wizards likely the one you'll be forgetting. After Unseld's retirement, franchise became mediocre, forgotten throughout the 80s and early 90s, led by the forgotten Jeff Malone and Jeff Rulin years. Team would have been more relevant tanking for a high pick, resulting in the Moses Malone, Bernard King past their prime years. Despite the bright hopes of landing Juwan Howard and Chris Webber, Fat Five legends, C. Webb traded for a past his prime aging Mitt Richmond. A retired Michael Jordan worked in the front office. Owner Abe Pollan didn't want to grant him ownership of the team. Disgusted by all the young players, MG himself unretired to prove a point. He was still better than everyone on the team, doubling their win totals before going down with injury. His time with the franchise swept under the rug. After his playing days, being most remembered as a bad owner in Charlotte overshadowed his time in the nation's capital. Then came the Gilbert Arenas era, appearing to be on the rise. Agent Zero tore his ACL late 2007. Franchise beaten by young LeBron 3 straight years in a row. The locker room confrontations with Arenas' gun incident, to multiple players getting overpaid, injury prone, the disastrous Ernie Grunfeld times, known for giving money to average players, Auto Max contract Porter, Yamahibi, Andrew Nicholson, Marcin Gortat, giving John Wall a supermax before tearing his Achilles, tried rebuilding around overrated Bradley Beal only to give him a no trade clause, miraculously got rid of him, leading to the light-skinned bros era. Now in a full rebuild, no conference finals since the 70s, franchise most successful season since Magic and Bird came to the league, losing to a 5'9" Isaiah Thomas. Aside from the Dallas Mavericks, Washington might be the worst team to be a fan of going forward. Only their young guys Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Dar can save them, both not guaranteed to be anything special. Charlotte Hornets, 35 total seasons in existence, nothing but absolute travesties. No conference finals appearance, 350-win seasons, not seen since the 90s when the team was called the original Charlotte Hornets. It'll be 9 straight seasons of no playoffs, easily the most frustrating franchise since the expansion of the Charlotte Bobcats in 2004, drafted Emeka Okafor 2nd overall, resulted in 0 playoff series wins, constant losing, even in 2009, a game back from the 8th seed, forced to play 6 of his last 8 games outside of their home arena, being used for a horse event. Team finished that season 1-7 that stretch. Most remembered as the franchise for owning the worst win percentage in league history, a disgusting 7-59 record, only to draft Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Other disappointing picks, Cody Zeller, Noah Vonleh, going from the Bobcats to Hornets, only made the name sound better. Franchise star Kemba Walker wasted his best years on the losing franchise, on his losing teams before his knees gave out, being the franchise most decorated player when he's not even a Hall of Famer, a huge absolute travesty. Everybody just numb to the embarrassment. 3 total playoff games won last 21 years, wasting LaMelo Ball's talents away, a recent minus 145 point differential, the most ever in a 4-game span, just a straight up sad, miserable, hopeless, depressing franchise, giving the Wizards a run for their money. On which team's been the worst since the 2000s? At least Washington has some good moments with Wall and Beal. The Hornets never even drafted anyone as good as LaMelo. Bobby Phil's the only former player to have his jersey number retired, not due to being Hall of Fame worthy, but remembered for tragically losing his life in a car accident. Only 3 total All-Stars since the Bobcats era started. Last playoff series won, LeBron was in high school. Players younger than 23 years old today weren't even born yet. Just a process of never-ending failure in sight. From being 2 separate Hornets, the 90s with Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning, Glenn Rice, super cool. Then moved to New Orleans for a bit. Later, the current franchise started with the Bobcats expansion, straight up garbage. The original Hornets solid, the Bobcats last Hornets, all-time absolute travesties. Other honorable mentions, borderline dysfunctional teams, includes the Phoenix Suns, Chicago Bulls, and Sacramento Kings. Giving Kevin Durant on his way to a 5th different team, the Bradley Beal trade disaster sabotaged their growth in contending for a title. After 2022 Luka snatched their soul, things were never the same. From new owner Matt Ishbia trying to buy his way to the title, things don't work that way in the NBA. Every single move done after Durant, an epic disaster. From DeAndre Soft Ayton quitting on the team, having 3 different head coaches in the span of 3 underwhelming seasons, whether it's Monty Williams, Frank Vogel, or Mike Budenholzer, no depth, making a deal with the Devil Wizards and getting damaged good Bradley washed up Beal, stealing money from the franchise, made the whole team conceal to defeat. Unlike all the other teams on this list, management did try to go all in and failed miserably. The Mavs just tanking their franchise to shambles at this point. The Pelicans, Wizards, and Hornets just straight up suck for years. Sacramento, led by incompetent owner, too many coaching changes, and De'Aaron Fox getting out, will lead to being mediocre with Sabonis, DeRozan, and Levine for however long that trio lasts. The mid-Bulls, with cheap owner post-Jordan era, will continue settling for play-in berths. If it wasn't for drafting MJ, Chicago might actually have the worst franchise in all of sports. Jerry Reinsdorf still living under Jordan's success. Until there's new ownership, fans will just have to wait for the long game. Team won't be playing meaningful basketball for a while. At some point, enough is enough. Year after year, decade after decade, these franchises have done nothing but embarrass themselves and their fans, whether it's sheer idiocracy, front office dysfunction, or straight up being disrespectful to their own players, their fan base, and everything that represents the franchise. Proven time and time again, if the league ever needs a reset and one of these franchises has got to go, which one deserves to be wiped off the mat? Let me know in the comments below. More bad seasons for these franchises coming soon. See y'all next video.